the shadows crawl. Curtains rise, a ghostly sprawl. The frames are whispers, the stories call. Projectors hum in a hollow tune. Moonlight cuts through velvet gloom. Is it a dream or a real too soon? Step into the screen where the dark turns keen. Journey with the cinephile, unseen, unseen. The tales twist and turn as the silent light burns. A world unknown where the shadows yearn.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to Journey with a Cinephile, a horror movie podcast, where we take a deep dive into the world of horror cinema, from the eerie classics to the latest spine-chilling releases. Join me as I explore the history, themes, and artistry of horror one film at a time. Whether you're a seasoned horror fan or just stepping into the shadows, this journey is for you. So dim the lights, embrace the fear, and let's talk horror. And let's do this on episode 306. I am your tour guide of David Garrett Jr., recording out of Columbus, Ohio. So for this here, it's going to be my Voyage to the Fives number 21. My two featured reviews are going to be the Conjuring Last Rites. I went to the theater to see that one. And I'm going to be pairing it up with Dante's Inferno from 1935. Doesn't make for the greatest double feature because especially the latter one isn't necessarily delving too much into the actual Divine Comedy, or at least that section of it. What I will say is that we have people making decisions and how it affects their family. So then for my mini reviews, I have Habit. This is my Voyage to the Fives rewatch from 1995. I have a couple screeners here of A Mother's Embrace as well as The Demoness. And then my rewatch here is going to be Dewey Shaw. I'm going to check that out. That is a wide 2025 release. And then I'm also going to have a couple of documentaries here for you. Well, it's going to be one documentary of His Name Was Jason, 30 Years of Friday the 13th. Check that out while I was working. And then I have a couple episodes of The Horror's Greatest that is over on Shudder. So I don't think there's anything else to say here for this intro outside of saying thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy coming on this journey with me. I have a great thing here that I wanted to go ahead and give you an offer for since it fell into my lap and wanted to go ahead and share it with you. I have been given a promo code here for shimmerwoodbeverages.com. These are CBD-infused seltzers that are award-winning. They have been twice recognized by Forbes as the #1 CBD beverage in the United States and the best lower potency option out there. It blends full-spectrum CBD with local Maine fruits and cocktail bitters for bold flavors, crafted without added sugars, caffeine, or artificial ingredients, which, if you know me, that is something that I prefer because, I get enough of the caffeine and I'm trying to get away from sugars. So it's designed for relaxation without intoxicating effects, perfect straight from the can or a refreshing cocktail or mocktail base, depending on what you're looking for there. This has unique flavors like raz lime, chai cherry, ginger orange, and just hemp. Now, Simmerwood offers a health-conscious alternative to sugary sodas or alcohol, made to revive a calm, clear focus for natural stress relief. Each can contains 5 milligrams of full-spectrum CBD for a balancing, calming effect. So this one here is at, like I said, shimmerwood.com, and my promo code here for you listeners is actually you get 30% off of if you use my code, and this is, like I said, a great deal if you can go ahead and you want to do that, and my code is going to be Cinephile1. So if you want to check out more of the information or check out their site, there will be links in the show notes for you to check that out there.
Pod Nation TV has you beamed up with out-of-this-world award-winning podcast found exclusively on Pod Nation TV. Download Pod Nation TV for Roku and Fire TV. Pod Nation TV, out of this world.
And for my first mini review here is going to be Habit. This is my Voyage to the Fives rewatch from 1995. This is written, directed, and starring Larry Fessenden. This also has Meredith Senator and Aaron Biel. Those are your other people here starring. This is a drama horror romance film from the United States, currently sitting on a 6.4 on IMDb and a 3.5 on Letterboxd, or a synopsis. Autumn in New York. Sam has broken up with his girlfriend and his father has recently passed away. World-weary and sloppy drunk, he finds solace in the arms of Anna, a mysterious woman who draws him into a nightmare of addiction and madness. So Sam is portrayed by Fessenden and Anna by Snyder. I think I might be how you say that. But this is a film that I had never originally heard of, but until it was included on a list of best horror films from the 1990s. That'd be the podcast Under the Stairs, where I was a member of the People's Council. I was pleasantly surprised to see that Fessenden was the writer, director, and star, because ahead of figuring that out and watching this movie for that first time, I had seen some of his later works. I've now given it a second watch here as a voyage through the fives rewatch, as I was saying. So where I'm going to start is, this is an art house film. I'm a fan of these type of movies to an extent. This has a gritty feel due to its low budget. I'd go as far to say it has like a Frank Henenlotter feel, as Fessenden does a great job at bringing the feel of New York City to this one. It almost feels like a character, and I saw the synopsis say that Sam is a bohemian. That's a good way to describe him and like his friend group, and we're getting an interesting look here at living in New York City during this era. So now that I have it set up, let's look at our lead here. This is a character study of Sam and his struggles. He has problems with alcohol, which I can't fault him too much. His father did pass away and his girlfriend left him, and he is now seeking solace in the bottle. The problem is I feel like this was issues before these things have happened. So that when Anna comes along, he turns his addiction toward her. Part of it could be grief, but I also think that he might just have an addictive personality. Now with the title like Habit, it makes sense in more than one way. Now, what's enjoyable is that we have some subtle reveal to Anna's vampirism, hinted at by like a full moon and some wolves, aligning with other standard lore. I appreciate the clever parallel drawn between vampirism and drug addiction, reminiscent of a film also from the 90s of The Addiction. We're also kind of reflecting the 80s and 90s war on drugs. The male characters who are involved with her exhibit symptoms mirroring drug abuse, a creative and enduring correlation that we'll see in films much after this. Now, I do have to say, though, that this does have some issues for me. Part of it could be the pacing. The build-up was so good in establishing Sam. It gets manic, but it also kind of makes sense. Sam has fully slipped into his addiction to Anna as she is draining him. It becomes almost like a dream to show us what he's experiencing. This could be trimmed, as I don't know if it needs to run as long as it does. There's another way of also looking at this, is that vampirism could be a metaphor for AIDS in the wake of that crisis, both being parasitic afflictions. Before I move away from here, I want to wrap back around. There's a scene where Sam talks about his father to his father's friends. A man asks him about Liza, who is his ex-girlfriend, and she's portrayed by Heather Woodbury. Now, there's a scene where Anna then shows up at this thing while they're talking, and she has this artifact that everybody's intrigued by. This old man has something to tell Sam as he leaves a message on his voice machine, or his answering machine, and I think there's a missed opportunity here. It feels like a subtle reveal that this man made for us to confirm what she is, so I thought that was kind of cool. I'm assuming he's probably saying that the thing she has, there's no way she could have it because they've never seen something like this, something along those lines. So let's speed off for the story. Let's go over to the acting performances. Fessenden's portrayal of an alcoholic's descent into madness with Anna feels incredibly real, making him believable, like he might actually have been this character at some point in his life. Now, Snyder's subdued performance as Anna blurs the line between monster and exploiter, adding a layer to her monstrous side might be hallucination. The supporting cast effectively pushes Sam to his fate, so his friends do a really good job at kind of being there for him, also kind of enabling him. And you also have like Liza, who kind of wants him back, kind of wants him to get his stuff together, kind of stuff like that. I'll then finish out with the filmmaking aspects. There wasn't much in the way of effects. It doesn't necessarily need them either, as this feels more about the atmosphere, setting, and the acting. I do think the blood that we got looked real. The interactions between Anna and Sam kind of violent at times, and I thought that was kind of good. The look of the climaxes as well, and what I mean there is of the creature. It adds a subdued look to that I appreciate. Other than that, the sound design and music fit for what was needed. So in conclusion, this is a fascinating and gritty art house horror film that excels as a character study of Sam's descent into addiction, subtly blending elements of alcoholism, grief, and vampirism. Fessenden's triple threat here as writer, director, and star delivers a compelling performance supported by Snyder's ambiguous portrayal of Anna. While the film's pacing can be uneven and a missed opportunity regarding a subplot is evident, this atmospheric New York City setting, effectively use of practical effects and thoughtful exploration of addiction as a parasitic affliction, make it a memorable entry from the 1990s. So my rating then for Habit, going to be a 7 out of 10. And for my next mini review here is going to be a screen look at the checkout of A Mother's Embrace. Goes by the original title of Abraco di Me. This is from 2024, getting its wide release here this year, and this is directed by Christian Ponce, who also co-wrote this with Andre Pereira and Gabriela Capello. This is starring Marjorie Estino, Chandeli Braz, and Javier Drolis. This is a horror film that is from Brazil, currently sitting on a 5.8 on IMDb and a 2.9 on Letterboxd, or a synopsis beam. During the massive 1996 Rio storm, firefighters try to evacuate a collapsing nursing home, but the mysterious residents have sinister plans. So this one I got the chance to see thanks to Alex from Simply Legendary Publicity, who reached out to see if I'd be interested in a screener. Learning that this was coming to Screenbox intrigued me since I'm subscribed to the service. I skimmed the press release, sounded like something to be in my interest, so also knowing this was from Brazil helps my end of year list, trying to get a little bit more foreign films on there as well. So then where I'm going to kind of start is that I love the setup. We set the stage here of Anna when she's a child, and when she's a little girl, she is portrayed by Mel Nunez. And then as an adult, she's actually portrayed by Astino. And what I like here is that she has this horrific thing happen to her with her mother, who is Cristina, portrayed by Chandeli Braz. So, few things here. First, we see that something is wrong with her mother, or maybe there's something just off. The easy way of seeing this is mental illness. Cristina drugged her daughter and then takes her to this carnival, and then it seems like he was trying to kill her, like a murder-suicide, as when Anna wakes up as a little girl, she's in a burning apartment with her mother, and her mother is holding her, and they're sleeping in bed together. You could also see that she's protecting her with things that we see later. We also have these haunting image that Anna is seeing her mother. She also saw this fetus as a little girl, and this imagery plays back in later. So let's discuss the atmosphere. I love the idea of these heavy rains are coming, trapping or isolating our firefighting team in this old rundown house where Anna is part of that team there. And what ends up happening here, though, is this feels like Baskin to me. There are similar concepts, as well as there's a cult here and a ritual is being done. We also have a bit of a creature feature here with this tentacle that we see when the character of Roque, portrayed by Ronaldo Machado, is walking around outside of this building as the rains come. He's assessing the structure. Now, the reveal is something that I'm going to avoid. It's a variation on a classic story that we've seen, and it might even be a little bit Lovecraftian. Now, let's go with the title here, A Mother's Embrace. First happens in the beginning here as Christina's holding her daughter when she wakes up and the fire is burning. Now, the two are estranged from that point on, and Anna keeps seeing her mother, even though her mother has passed away. It is a subtle thing that is done here, and it might be something else, or she's just kind of hallucinating. When we're in this house with the tensions rising, Anna's trying to save this little girl of Leah, who is portrayed by Maria Volpe. This feels like she's trying to do what, in her eyes, her mother failed to do as like a redemption arc. I do appreciate that, and Astino as good as our lead. I do want to shift over to discuss filmmaking. This film's strength lies in its claustrophobic atmosphere, effectively contained by the flooded, surroundings. Cinematography and practical effects highlight the building's disrepair, contrasting with our characters' claims. We also have sound design and music that build tension. And going back to this character's claims, there is this woman who owns this place, of Drika, portrayed by Angela Rebello, and then there's Ulysses, portrayed by Drolis. They claim the house is fine, but then as the firefighters kind of go around, and that would be like Anna, Roque. There is Morao, portrayed by Rafael Canado. And then there's also the guy who's leading this team here of Diaz, portrayed by Val Pereira. So then this has a 90-minute runtime. The pacing just feels off, though. It kind of failed to maintain my full attention. This also could be a me problem a little bit because I had some stuff going on when I was trying to kind of keep my attention. So also have to be the acting performances. Astino shines as our lead, portraying a redemptive journey to succeed where her mother, Braz, who now haunts Anna, failed. Volpe is well suited for the role of Leah. Drolis and Rebello effectively convey a creepy atmosphere as the isolated location's overseers. Machado, Pereira, and Canido are strong as Anna's team, and the odd residents also serve their purpose. Something I will say is I think there's a certain character here. I'd like that they get a baseline before they change, making things later make more sense. So in conclusion, this creates a compelling claustrophobic horror experience, effectively building tension through the atmospheric setting and unsettling premise. While the pacing occasionally falters, the strong performances, particularly from Astino, and the clever integration of themes like redemption and haunting past elevate the film. It's a solid entry from Brazil that provides a unique take on classic horror tropes, making it a worthwhile watch for fans of the macabre. So my rating here then for A Mother's Embrace is going to be a 7 out of 10. And this one is coming actually to Screenbox here in the near future. I think actually right around the time this episode will be out, this will be available. Then up next, I have another screener of The Demoness. This is actually going to be released in 2026, but I got the screener early thanks to Andrew D. Berg, who wrote and directed this. So this stars Sidney Culbertson, Mark Pontarelli, and Akihiro Kitamura. Now, this is a dark comedy, supernatural, fantasy horror thriller film that is from the United States. It does not have any ratings yet because it's still listed as being in progress, and the same thing there over on Letterboxd, with our synopsis being a dynamic succubus visits Earth to torment the human race. So for this one here, I learned about it, as I said, thanks to the writer and director. I had watched a previous film he did, The Seductress from Hell, and I enjoyed that. So I was agreed, check this one out. I am including it on my 2025 end of year list since I saw it this year. So to me, it's a 2025 film. It is getting its wide release next year. So if you are interested, I would keep an eye out. It looks like it's going to be in October of next year. So where I'm going to then start is that we're following this character of Charlotte. She's the Demoness, portrayed by Culbertson. So this is almost like a supernatural slasher of sorts, where she entices different people, leads them back to her place, and then kills them. I'd also say it's a slow burn with the development of these as well. So going along with this, it's a character study of Charlotte. It is interesting that we don't truly meet her until after this initial couple that she actually visits and does some things to, of Sarah Lalana, portrayed by Bella Glanville, and then there's Jack Gerard, portrayed by Xander Bailey. And what I do think is that Charlotte works well. Now, first we see her in this dynamic form, and then she makes a deal with Satan, who is her, boss, portrayed by Pontarelli. And she's given the option here: does she want to become anybody she would like, or will she become a human version of herself? And I would say that when she ends up taking that, and Culbertson is attractive, she conveys a sassiness that I could see enticing certain men as well. Thought that worked. I believe that this creature in this form could lure men back like she does with what she's working with, so there's that, both personality and looks. The social commentary is a little bit over heavy. It's a little bit heavy-handed, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. So the opening scene shows a couple's relationship struggling, Jack hating his job and taking it out on Sarah, who is unemployed and underappreciated. That's relatable. However, Charlotte then encounters two womanizers at a nightclub, and her subsequent actions, though understandable to a degree, despite they don't deserve death, are drawn out, and they kind of bog down the running time. I do think those two guys, though, are pretty solid as well, of Steve Urden, portrayed by Riley Nottingham, and then there is Brad Heinrichsen, portrayed by Bruce Clifford. So then there's a couple more that she also encounters. There is another couple here of Yagami Minamino, portrayed by Kitamura, and then his wife is Tamara, portrayed by Amelia Gotham. So they are neighbors since she has taken over this house that we originally saw and everything. They're also hiding a secret, even though they seem like they're nice neighbors. I can roll with what we're doing there. This also feels, again, like it's trying to make Charlotte an anti-hero there. Then there's something else here with Brad. He seeks out a detective, Gerard, portrayed by Dallas Schaefer, when Steve has gone missing. There is a corrupt detective who digs up dirt to help Brad with deals. Neither deserve harm, but they're great characters by doing illegal things. Now, since I've already kind of started into this, let's finish out the filmmaking aspects. I do think the cinematography and framing are solid. They don't necessarily do anything to truly stand out. They're creative with the nightclub scenes. How that is shot makes it look more like it's packed, so credit there. Interesting things are done with shadows like early on. I also like the demon look of the succubus. We get some practical effects with the kills. Those work. My issue, though, there's a handful of times here where we're getting CGI that doesn't hold up as well. This doesn't have the largest budget. I can overlook it. Also, there are some good spots with musical selections and distorted voices of the demons, a solid touch as well. This is just made well overall. Then the last thing to go into would be the acting performances. I've already said that I thought that Culbertson was good in her role. I like how we see her in the start, and then we don't truly get to meet her until after the opening sequence. Interesting route to go. Glenville and Bailey helped to set the stage. Nottingham and Schaefer fit their roles. I also like Kitamura, Gotham. There's also Haruka Igarashi. Now, she plays the sister to Yagami. And then we also have Pontarelli and the rest of the cast. They kind of rounded this out for what was needed. In conclusion, this offers an intriguing character study of this titular succubus of Charlotte, portrayed effectively by Culbertson. While the film's social commentary can be heavy-handed and some scenes drawn out, the overall filmmaking, including cinematography and practical effects and musical selections, is solid, especially considering its budget. Despite some minor CGI issues, the performances from the cast round this out as a well-made horror movie that I found enjoyable. So my rating for the Demoness is going to be a 6 out of 10. Like I said, keep an eye out for this next October. Like, not this one coming up, but the one after. And then for my last little mini review here that I'm going to be doing is one that I actually covered earlier this year. So it's going to be a little bit brief. That's going to be Dewey Shaw. This is technically from 2024. It's getting its wide release here this year. So let me then just make sure I get some of this information correct here. So this is directed by Nuhash Humayun and written by him as well as, I think it's a him at least, Gultenkin Khan. It stars Alan Shrubro, Mizurna Rahman Aryan, and Shahan Sumi. So this is a 4-part series that is combined into a feature, I believe, offering a modern revival of mysterious and lurid plots taken from South Asian folktales and updated to present times. So I originally got to see this from Braindance Film Festival. So this is a horror thriller from Bangladesh, and then this is currently sitting on a 7.8 on IMDb and a 3.5 on Letterboxd. So I've already kind of given a little bit of the synopsis. Each one has its own little story, so I will kind of delve into those as I jump into it. But if you'd like to hear a mini review, I did this on episode 293, which was Voyage to the Fives number 10, that featured Fear Street Prom Queen and Mystery of the Ghastly Face. So here are the stories. We have Prayer Time. This is the first one. A group of students vandalize a temple for money, triggering violent supernatural events that mysteriously sync with daily Islamic prayer times. So I found this one to be my favorite. The brutal practical effects are part of it. The cinematography and framing, though, definitely help it, whereas we're playing with perceptions and stuff, like we see something from their point of view, we see something from the real point of view, and kind of everything like that. Then the second tale is Good Luck. A fortune teller struggles to find a kidney donor for his mother and hits rock bottom when two of his fortunes lead him to getting beaten up. He decides to read his own, breaking a forbidden rule. This one has more good cinematography and framing. There's a good idea here about why fortune tellers are forbidden from reading their own, and I love what they're doing there. And then the next one is Antara. That's actually the name of the character as well. She's a timid housewife who questions her reality after an accident, suspecting her husband might not be the man that she married. This one explores themes of like traditional religion, with the husband potentially being the devil, and the idea that good people ignore evil whispers while bad people act on them. Once again, the quality is staying high here, good cinematography and framing and practical effects. And I actually love something that I realized this second watch around, how it connects with our final tale of Bashara. This is a village of just artistic people, but they sing like a song that we get to introduce to everything. There's a little girl who doesn't sing on tune, and her 8th birthday is the next day. She either needs to, achieve this ability or face the butchers, and we get a great way to meet them. So this segment is the most whimsical because it's kind of doing more of like you get in India, where we have like these grand musical numbers. Maybe not grand is a way to say it, but it definitely does some good things there. There's an interesting connection to the story of Adam and Eve here, and well as the Garden of Eden. This might be my least favorite from the slightest margin. Maybe not now after this time around. It might actually be Good Luck after the second viewing, but the musical numbers are great. I appreciate the underlying religious themes here that connect to the previous story, like I said. So overall for me, this one is a blending of traditional South Asian folktales with modern horror and religion. I think that there's some great quality across the board. It does kind of help here that we have the same filmmaking team behind all of it. We have some diverse narratives and subtle weaving of themes of religion and human nature, along with strong acting, creative cinematography, and effective practical effects. So I end up giving this one, at the second time around, an 8.5 out of 10. And I have a documentary of His Name Was Jason, 30 Years of Friday the 13th. So this is from 2009. It is directed by Daniel Ferrens, and then the writers here that are credited are Tommy Hudson and Anthony Massey. This features Natalie Adams, Diane Almeida, Eric Anderson, amongst a ton of other people here. But it's a documentary horror film from the United States, currently sitting on a 6.9 on IMDb. Nice. And a 3.2 on Letterboxd with our synopsis. A documentary exploring 30 years of Friday the 13th film series, featuring all new interviews with cast and crew from all 12 films and various horror fans and filmmakers. Kind of crazy that I'm pretty sure we haven't had another one come out after this one, because I think the last one to come out would have been the remake, and that does get featured here. So what I'll say is that I heard about this through podcasts, one of my list of... Since I'm a fan of Friday the 13th, I wanted to check this out. Now, I found this streaming, so I decided to watch this while working. So this takes about the first 20 minutes to recap the series, giving information about each of the films, and then goes into a bit more in-depth with about how this franchise came about, talking about its iconic villain of Jason Voorhees, and interviewing different people who were involved. This would keep people including who played the character, like Richard Brooker, Steve Dash, Warrington Gillette, C.J. Graham, Ken Kersinger, Derek Mears, and Kane Hodder. We also hear from Sean S. Cunningham, who helped create the films, along with Victor Miller. That provided some interesting insight. So then from there, we also talked to other directors from this, like John Carl Buechler and Joseph Zito. Harry Manfredini gets interviewed as he came up with the iconic music. I also like seeing like Adrian King, Amy Steele, Deborah Voorhees, Stuart Charno, Betsy Palmer, Shavar Ross, and others that starred. It's just kind of fun to hear their experiences, since a lot of these people were relatively unknown ahead of being in a film or part of the series. And some of them took off, and some people, this is really the only thing they ever did, but, credit there still. We also get some talking heads that are also fans, like Seth Green, Adam Green, Jeffrey Riddick, Ryan Turek, Brad Miska, Joe Lynch are also featured. And this is hosted by Tom Savini, who is just kind of great to see him as well. So I'll say this is made well enough. The interviews are your standard, just kind of seeing them while they're, talking. They do edit in footage to help show things that are being said at times. The biggest issue, though, is that this feels very manic. It feels like they wanted to include as much information from the more encompassing Crystal Lake Memories documentary. It tries to fit in what they could from that, which was 6.5 hours, into this 90-minute runtime. So with that said, this is still a pretty solid documentary. I do think it needs more time and maybe to stick to a different structure, but for what it is, it's good. I would recommend this for fans of the franchise and people who want to know a little bit more about the making of the films, and you don't have 6.5 hours to kind of dedicate to that much more encompassing one. So my rating then for His Name Was Jason, 30 years of Friday the 13th, is going to be a 7 out of 10. And I also got to check out 2 episodes here of Horror's Greatest. So it's going to be Season 2, Episode 2 of Killer Dates. This has the synopsis of dates in horror or worst case scenarios that go way past awkward silences. Your love mate is either a serial killer, a tormented psychic, or comes from a family that wants to hunt you for sport. Looking for love inevitably leads to blood and carnage. So let's explore some interesting ideas how dating can be scary in normal situations. As somebody who's gone on a lot of first dates, ahead of finding my wife, I can make that connection. Even the worst dates of my life don't compare to what we get here. So kind of going a little bit what the synopsis is leading to here, we get things like prom night or Carrie, because, prom is such a common event in the United States, so I'm not shocked to see that we have horror movies that use that as a concept. I know Stephen King did the whole Carrie thing originally. Now they correlate to another slasher film as well in this show, or this episode of Terror Train. Another one to include is Audition. That's kind of an interesting one where we have this man. He does something that's a little bit shady. Does he deserve what he gets? Probably not. And then you're also going to have a variation on things like You're Next, as you're going to meet your boyfriend's family for the first time. Then there's also like Ready or Not, which is a wedding night with a family that has odd traditions. And then, of course, Get Out. I like how they're taking what's being explored in old and newer films, as you get a really great cross-section there. And then the next one after that is going to be Hidden Gems. What special film would you recommend to a ghoul who has seen everything? In this episode, genre mavens select 13 movies that have been forgotten, overlooked, unfairly maligned, or hard to find, all bloody gems hidden beneath the floorboards. So this one I loved because it's exploring some cult films that I know and some that I haven't. Like I've seen Freaked, which I remember watching growing up, and I actually have a DVD of it now. I have not watched it in years. There's also art house films here like Ganja and Hess, which I've seen a good handful of times just for different reasons. I've also seen it in the theater. I also love The Black Coat's Daughter that's brought up. That's another one. Now, we also have ones that I haven't seen yet that are on my list, like The Stone Tapes. We have a great array of films that I've seen and not, and so I just kind of made sure that I updated those lists to have those, in ready kind of sight there. I also love the talking heads for both these episodes that share their insight, like Nathaniel Thompson, Rebecca McKendry, Tana Neverado, and if I mispronounced your name, I do apologize once again, Tracy Salisbury, and Heidi Honeycutt. Now, they're all a wealth of knowledge. We also bring back actors and personalities like David Dastmalchian, Alex Winter, and Kate Siegel, as well as Howard S. Berger, who, I think he's a guy who does like special effects, but he's also a horror historian according to this, and Joe Hill. So for me, both these episodes are great. Maybe not the most in-depth, but I still think there's some great information here, especially if you're trying to kind of get a crash course in all of these little subjects. So my rating for both episodes is going to be a 7.5 out of 10. And let's go ahead and get you over then to a very brief break as I get into the trailer of my first featured review.
The devil has come to Pennsylvania.
Jack and Janet Smurl claim that an evil presence has found its way into their home.
8 people live in this house. 8 people have experienced this. 8 people are not crazy.
So, when did this start?
Heather's confirmation.
7th of September.
There's something in the attic.
Ed, there's an evil here. Something I've felt before. This thing in your house is a demon. It's the first one that we ever encountered. We were young. We were scared. We ran away. And after all these years, it wasn't done with our family.
Saint Michael, defend us. Be our safeguard against the devil.
In nomine Patris, et Filii et Spiritus Sanctus, by the power of our Lord Jesus Christ!
I don't know how to protect you this time.
And for my first featured review here is going to be The Conjuring Last Rites. This is from 2025. Now, this is directed by Michael Chavez. I think that's how you say that name. And then this is written, the screenplay amongst Ian Goldberg, Richard Nang, and David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick. And then the story was done by Johnson McGoldrick with James Wan, and then Chad Hayes and Carrie W. Hayes it's based on the characters that they had created. And so for this one here, we are starring Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga, and Mia Tomlinson, while also having the likes of Ben Hardy, Steve Coulter, Rebecca Calder, Elliot Cohen, Bo Gaddisden, Kyla Lord Cassidy, John Brotherton, Shannon Cook, Paula Lindbold, Madison Lawler, Orion Smith, Emmy Nolan, Peter White, Kate Fahey, and Tilly Walker. So this is currently sitting on this is a supernatural horror mystery thriller film that is from a co-production of the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada. Currently sitting on a 6.5 on IMDb and a 3.0 on Letterboxd, or a synopsis being: paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren take on one last terrifying case involving mysterious entities that they must confront. So Ed, once again, portrayed by Wilson, and Lorraine by Farmiga. So I wasn't shocked to hear this was being made. The Conjuring universe has its fans, even though the movies can be all over the place with reception. Some are good, some are bad, some are just kind of very middling. So it's kind of one of those things where not super shocked that it's successful, just because it does bode well to make popcorn horror films. And that's what I kind of feel like this one is. So hearing that this was going to be the last in the series, it kind of made sense, because it borderline just mostly feels like that our lead actors here of Farmiga and Wilson probably want to be done with the character. Now, I honestly don't think this is the end of the Conjuring universe. I'll digress there. I'm not going to conjecture too much more. So this is a case that I didn't necessarily know a whole lot about. I wasn't the biggest fan of the previous film they did, The Devil Made Me Do It. So I didn't know what the true case was going to be, the basis, and I say that in the most loosest terms. So I came into this one blind. Let's do some feature notes then to start off with. And our director of Chavez has helmed 4 films and 2 shorts. Everything that he's done is in genre, and it's all in the Conjuring universe. As the previous films he's did was The Devil Made Me Do It, The Nun 2, and The Curse of La Llorona. Now there's an additional director here of Stephen Hall. He's done this twice, and this is the first I've seen, only one he's done in horror. To our writing room, first is going to be Goldberg, who has 4 movies and 3 shorts. He has written The Autopsy of Jane Doe, this, The Nun 2, and Eli, so I've seen all of those. Then Yang seems to work with Goldberg, as they have the same credits. Then the last I'll look at here is Johnson McGoldrick, which I actually looked up. He went to Ohio State University like I did. Now, he's done 8 features and 1 short. Not horror, he did Aquaman that I've seen, along with Wrath of the Titans. He has 5 in genre, and I've seen them all now. He has done The Conjuring 2, 3, This, Orphan, and Red Riding Hood. Now, he also has a credit for the story, and he did this with The Conjuring 3 and This, Orphan First Kill, and Wrath of the Titans. I've seen 4 of his 5 total, 3 of 3 for horror. Now, Juan also gets a credit here. He has 13 motion pictures and 3 shorts. I've seen 12. He has credit for like Saw, Megan, Conjuring films, Malignant. So I'm at 11 of 11 for his horror films. I think the only one I'm missing is the Aquaman sequel. Then there are 2 original writers. First is Chad Hayes, and he has 2 credits. I've seen both now with the last 2 Conjuring movies. And then his brother, Carrie, was the same. So then to the cast. First is going to be Farmiga. She's been in 57 features and 10 shorts. I've seen her in The Departed, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, and Hawkeye. Those aren't in horror. In total, I've seen 18 works of hers. She has 9 in genre. I've seen 8. Those would be like Orphan, the Conjuring films. I've not seen Joshua from 2007 as the only missing one. Then to our co-star is going to be Wilson. He's been in 59 movies and 2 shorts. Not horror was Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, Aquaman, and Watchmen. Now, in horror, he's done 15, and I've seen them all. They're the Conjuring and Insidious films, plus there's like Bone Tomahawk and In the Tall Grass. Now, last is going to be Tomlinson. She's been in 2 films. This is the only one that I've seen, and her first one that she's done in genre. Alright, so for this one here, we start back in the 1960s. What we'll learn is that this is the first case that Ed and Lorraine are taking on. So the younger version of them is Orion Smith and Madison Lawler. Now, it is a young woman who runs an antique store after her father passed away. Now she has a mirror. Lorraine touches it. This sends her into labor as she is quite pregnant. Ed tries to get her to the hospital as fast as he can, but it's storming out. There's some complications with the birth, and the hospital loses power, and she even sees an entity might be coming for her. In the end, Lorraine prays for the baby to survive, and she does. It then jumps to the present, 1986. We have the Smurl family as they're preparing for Heather's confirmation. So she's portrayed by Cassidy. Now she has 3 sisters, the oldest being Dawn, portrayed by Gaddisdon. Now these 2 butt heads as the older one bullies her younger sister. Now there are also some younger twins here of Karen, portrayed by Tilly Walker, and Shannon by Molly Cartwright. They have their parents here of Janet, portrayed by Calder, and Jack by Cohen. Now they live with his parents, who are Peter White and Kate Fahey. And then as a gift, Heather is given a mirror from the cold open, as her grandparents got it for her confirmation at a swap meet. Strange things start to happen to the family then. We also learned that Ed and Lorraine are also no longer taking cases. Events from the previous film is part of it, as Ed cannot have another heart attack. Their daughter Judy, who is portrayed by Tomlinson, meets him out for dinner. It is here that Lorraine notices that something is following her. She taught Judy at a young age how to get rid of them, but it isn't working well. Ed has a birthday coming up, and she's having a party, and Judy's boyfriend of Tony Spira, portrayed by Hardy, is invited. Now, the Smurl family then has its own issues. Bigger issues, that is. The oldest girls try to get rid of the mirror. Things get much worse from there. No one is safe. Now, the Warren family, again, has their own. Everything seems to be pulling these 2 families together, and it could be the thing that completely breaks the Warrens, as they do everything they can to save both families. So that's really my recap and introduction to the characters. Where I want to start is with a quick disclaimer. These Conjuring films try to paint the Warrens as this duo that saved all these families. There are the doubters that think they were charlatans. Now, this is a fictionalized take on what happened, as well as these characters. So I don't fully believe the stories that they're using as the basis. I think they're taking it, I think they're using elements of it, and then I think they're doing what they can to make it more exciting. So this is a popcorn horror film. Now, this effectively pulls at my heartstrings, though, particularly with the impactful cold open. It also provides a good send-off for the Warrens, highlighting the physical toll their cases have taken. While Ed is reluctant to quit, Lorraine is ready, which serves as a convenient reason for them to initially refuse to help the Smurls, prioritizing their health and Judy's. The way they become involved ultimately works for the story. It's one of those things where it's like, no, we can't do this, and then it becomes like the hero moment where they come on board. Regardless, Wilson and Farmiga deliver strong performances. They've really brought these characters to life as these versions. Then we have the family we're trying to help. Now, the limited pictures that they're showing, and from a search I've done online, as well as they have it in the movie itself, it's interesting here that Janet and Jack have 4 daughters, and I would say most everybody looks fairly close enough where I could see it. Now, we have a little bit of that Hollywood sheen, but it is what it is. They do well to make it look like this is the 80s. So Jen is a stay-at-home mother while Jack works. Now, they're doing what they can to get by. They can't afford to move when the hauntings ramp up. That's a tense scene where the 2 daughters of Heather and Dawn demand to leave, and Jack tells them they can't. They blame him for not believing. As a parent, I feel more when you're financially stuck. This helps to build tension. Let's then shift over to discuss filmmaking. This is well made with good cinematography and framing, using the haunted mirror effectively for artistic shots and crafted scares, and they even use regular mirrors quite frequently throughout this, so I love using that reoccurring motif. It does rely heavily on CGI, which I'm not always the biggest fan of. It looks fine outside of a few things. While it employs frequent jump scares, that's typical for this series and for this era of filmmaking, which can feel gimmicky. It still delivered some shocking deaths aided by strong sound design. And there's a few times that the jump scares in this actually made me jump a little bit. Now, the music is adequate. The film's excessive 136-minute runtime is a main drawback for me. Should have been under 2 hours. So all that's left before I do a little bit of trivia is going to be the acting performances. For Farmiga and Wilson, like I said, they excel, as does Tomlinson as Judy, who portrays fear convincingly while dealing with her own haunting. Hardy delivers a strong performance as Judy's boyfriend with a compelling backstory. Calder and Cohen are effective as the Smurl parents, and Coulter is solid again as Father Gordon. Now, I would also say Cassidy, Gaddiston, and Walker, Cartwright, they're all good as the daughters. The rest of the cast, including White, Fahey, Smith, Lawler, and the cameos, also contribute solidly. So like I was saying, for a little bit here for this trivia that I wanted to kind of bring up, the chilling story of the Smurl family alleged haunting was dramatized in the movie The Haunted from 1991. Stated to be the last movie in the Conjuring series with Ed and Lorraine. Other movies within the universe may still occur without the Warrens. Sterling Jarens was recast with Tomlinson as Judy Warren as the character needed to be older. This film, given the time period it takes place in, Jarens at 21 looked too young to play an adult Judy in this film. That makes a whole lot of sense. This is the longest film in the Conjuring universe to date. It grossed $194 million worldwide, the biggest opening in a horror film, surpassing It, which grossed $190 million. That's crazy, and that actually didn't have a lot being said about it, so they're going to keep making more movies, I'm sure. In Heather's bedroom, there's a poster to the band Queen. Ben Hardy had played Queen's drummer Roger Taylor in Bohemian Rhapsody. The fictionalized character Sister Irene, who is Thaisa Farmiga, was 22 during the events of The Nun, which took place in 52. If theorized date of this film, 1986, is accurate, then Sister Irene would be 56 during the events of this one, assuming her part doesn't take place in flashbacks. Lorraine Warren was born in 1927, making her 59 in 1956. Vera Farmiga, who plays Lorraine, is 51 as of writing, and the big thing here is because they are sisters. Father Gordon does go to a building called the Diocese of Wilkes-Barre, but the local Catholic diocese would be in Scranton, Pennsylvania. In the basement of the Chase Seat House in 1980s, the light would have had a pull string at the bottom of the stairs, not a wall switch. And then at the conference, Ed brings up the character of Annabelle Mullins, but in the other movies, Annabelle is referred to as Higgins, so that was a little bit of a continuity issue there. So in conclusion, this offers a fitting, albeit lengthy end to the main Conjuring series. While it relies heavily on established tropes like CGI and jump scares, it is bolstered by strong performances from its core cast and compelling emotional core. The film effectively balanced the paranormal scares with the human drama of the Warren and Smurl families, making it a decent popcorn experience despite its flaws. So my rating here, I don't love this film. I think The Conjuring Last Rites is solid enough, though. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Not going to do a spoiler section. There's not anything I need to do more there. If you've seen a Conjuring film, you kind of have an idea of the basis and everything like that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is get you over to the trailer of my second featured review.
Why don't you dish it out to them so they'll like it? You know, I used to do a little barking in my time. Now, we're going to put hell on a paying basis, Bob, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Come on, step down. All right, now, folks, gather around. Come on now, step up, one and all. Now, folks, they're on the inside. Yes, sir, they're on the inside. Beautiful women and big, strong men. And, folks, they're burning. You hear what I say? They're burning. You see them twitch and you see them squirm. And, ladies and gentlemen, they're alive. They live. How do they? Down in a den of fire. And they neither walk nor talk. They crawl upon their stomachs. And, ladies and gentlemen, you see them all for a dime. 1 dime, 10 cents, the 10th part of $1. Just... What was the name of the day we gave Julius Caesar the runaround?
Cleopatra, but it wasn't Julius Caesar, it was Mark Antony.
You're right. And you will see Cleopatra, the girl who came from Egypt and made the Romans like it. And her book...
And for my second featured review is going to be Dante's Inferno from 1935, directed by Harry Lockman. This was written between Philip Klein and Robert Yost. We're also giving credit here to Dante Alighieri for the original poem that this is taking its name from, and a little bit of elements. That'd be the La Divina Commedia, which is the Divine Comedy. And then we also have a handful of people here who helped with the screenplay construction and dialogue. That would be Lou Breslow and Henry Johnson. And there's also Lester Cole and Rose Franken who helped with the treatment. This stars Spencer Tracy, Claire Trevor, and Henry Walthall. I think that might be how you say that. And then as well as having some other people here. Alan Dinehart, Scotty Beckett, Robert Gleckler, Rita Hayworth, Gary Leon, Leonard Robertson, Morgan Wallace, Astrid Elwin, Don Amici, Oscar Epfel, Mary Ashcroft, Gertrude Astor, Frank Austin, Zita Baca, and Lynn Barry. This is a drama romance, and then Letterboxd says this is a horror film. This is from the United States, currently sitting on a 6.6 on IMDb and a 3.3 on Letterboxd for a synopsis. A carny builds a gambling empire at the expense of his family's well-being. So I found this one when I was compiling my list for horror films from 1935. Now, this is one that I didn't get. It's not listed on IMDb, like I said. It's on Letterboxd, so I'll explore if I consider this to be horror later, but something I just wanted to reference here. Now, I didn't realize that this starred Spencer Tracy until actually settling in to watch it. I probably had saw that, didn't really kind of correlate anything because I was kind of rushing through when I kind of make those lists. Intrigued me to check this out, and this is, of course, my Voyage to the Fives watch from 1935. So before I jump into anything other than that, let me go ahead and do some feature notes. I'll start with our director here of Lachman. He has done this role for 36 features and 7 shorts. I've seen 2 of his works. He only did 2 in the genre with this and Dr. Renault's Secret. Now we have 2 writers. First is going to be Yost. He did this for 22 movies. The first that I've seen, only 1 in horror. Looks like he mostly did Western and comedies though. Now the other one is Klein. I have now seen 2 of his works. He did 31 total. The other one that he did was a borderline horror film. I think that's on IMDb as horror, of Chandu the Magician. And even though they're just using the title of his epic poem, I'll still bring up Alighieri here. Now, there's actually 8 films where he's considered the original writer and 8 shorts. I've now seen 3. I am now missing 1 in genre with Dante's Traum van der Hölle from 1989, which I'm guessing is kind of the same thing about this one here. It's probably something to do with the circles of hell and everything. Then over to our cast. First is going to be Tracy. He was in 96 motion pictures and 14 shorts, and I know he's up there as considered one of the first true movie stars. I've now seen 3 of his works. I've seen Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which isn't in genre. Has 2 that are. I've seen both now with this and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from 1941. Now his co-star of Trevor was in 72 features and 5 shorts. I've seen her in 2 things. Not horror, she was in Stagecoach with John Wayne and Ford. Only film she did in genre is this one. Then last to look at is Walt Hall. He was in 106 movies and 105 shorts. I've seen 5 things that he's been in. Not horror, he was in The Birth of a Nation and Judge Priest. In horror, he did 6. I've only ever seen this one. He was also in The Devil Doll, and then there's also the Lost After Midnight film. I know there's another one where it's like the reconstructed one. They're giving him credit for that, as well as being in some more D.W. Griffith films of like The Avenging Conscience, and he was also in a very early take on The Raven. All right, now with that taken care of, let's jump into this movie here, and we start on a cruise ship. There's a lavish party, and we have some society women who want to see the engine room. This leads him to where we meet Jim Carter, portrayed by Tracy. Now, he's taking bets on workers competing, and then there's one gets upset with him for betting on him and not giving him any of the cut, and they get into each other's face. We also see that Jim isn't hurt, even though his arm is in a sling. This leads him to getting fired, even though he quits. He claims to have a job at the next stop. It is here that we see he's working a carnival game. Now, he's in blackface. Customers are throwing baseballs at him. He then gets into it with his boss and quits. This leads him to stop off at a food counter. He tries to order a raw hamburger on credit for his eye, but the cook there isn't super happy about it. And then on the other side of the counter, though, is Pop McWade, portrayed by Walt Hall. He buys the burger as well as pay for his own meal. They then go over to the attraction that he runs, which is actually right next door to where Jim used to work. Now, this one shares the title of the film and the part of the epic poem from Alighieri. Now, Pop takes Jim around inside, showing him different parts of his exhibit. It's really kind of bland, though. There are different paintings of people, and there's like a few props and everything, and I think it's more about trying to telling these stories about how Dante saw hell, and then they kind of fill in a little bit of the blanks, but regardless, Jim is intrigued and asks why they don't do more business. Pop doesn't embellish, which is something that you need to do when you're competing with the other attractions. Jim offers to help, having experience in promotion as being a barker. It is here that he also meets Pop's niece, Elizabeth, but she goes by Betty, and she is Trevor. Now, with Jim's help, the place takes off. He also asks Betty to marry him. They have a son, Alexander Sonny Carter, portrayed by Beckett. Jim also has his eyes on expansion. The other members of this area agree to buy in, except for one. This is the guy who's asked to move his attraction, and he refuses. Jim sees ways around this, which aren't as lucrative for the owner. Jim's expansion doesn't stop here. He uses his new wealth and power to get things done, which make Pop realize that his partner isn't paying attention to the parable their business is built on. So let's leave my recap and action of the characters. What I want to start is whether or not this is a horror film. On the whole, I'd say no. This is more of a drama. We see the rise and eventual fall of Jim, which reminds me of things like Scarface. Not as extreme, but very similar. This is a moral fable. There are elements, though. There is something that happens with the attraction itself that would be terrifying, and it's based in realism. Could happen. Then Jim is finally reading the tale by Pops. And I actually think that he's actually relaying it to him. I think they kind of read it together while Pops is in the hospital. And then we get an overview of hell as well as the parts of the concept by Dante. And I'm still including it as it's still more of adjacent than truly in genre. Now with that out of the way, let's kind of look at this being, it's actually a character study of Jim. We see at first him working on this cruise ship. It is here that we know he's a good talker. He is pretending to be hurt and then setting up competitions with others. That sets the stage well. It is from here that we see him making moves from hitting a new rock bottom, and he quits another job but then stumbles into something to build another. He is never content. As he has people over, he's willing to do different things. Even if he loses a little bit of money there, it's more for things that are going to happen in the long run. And eventually, his big idea here is that he wants to own a cruise ship where they can do gambling on the high seas so he doesn't have to pay anybody. And this made me think of the myth here of Icarus. Not literally, but as you fly too close to the sun, you're getting ready for the fall. And it's also the idea like pride becomes before the fall. So Tracy does a great job at bringing this character to life. Now let's kind of look at where it's sharing its name and the elements that it takes from Dante's Inferno. It isn't a direct adaptation. Instead, this seems like more like a remake or borrowing from the 1924 version. Both films depict an important character whose negligence leads to a building collapse and subsequent legal trouble, experiencing hellish visions. They also criticize capitalistic corruption and greed. I appreciate the incorporation of this social commentary, especially because, this movie is 90 plus years old now. Now, something else that I borrowed is that it's centered around a family. Jim is much nicer than the character in the other. The 1924 version has a son who is trying to do the right thing. We don't necessarily get that here. Jim is a good father and husband. His ambition is getting in his way. Where we see he goes more of a villain, though, is where he's willing to give up his family to succeed, as he's given a choice there, though. That should be enough for the story. Let me finish out with the acting performances. I've already said Tracy is great. He truly carries this film. Now, something else who is good is Trevor. She's attractive and wants what's best for her family. There's a great scene that forces her to make life-altering decision. She doesn't love doing it, but she knows she kind of has to. Beckett is cute as her son. I like Whitehall, who sees potential in Jim and then comes to regret it to an extent. We interestingly get the first appearance here of Rita Hayworth, even though I think this might have technically been her first film. I think 2 might have gotten released before this one actually came out, but she's a dancer here. Now, we also have the rest of the cast kind of round this out for what was needed. All that's left for some trivia is going to be filmmaking aspects. Despite technological limitations, the cinematography of this is well executed. The true brilliance lies in its depiction of hell, featuring an immersive, moving camera through the story's various stages. Interesting here is there's no dialogue during this scene. That's actually part of the trivia that I did double check and confirm. More sequences like that, or actually kind of exploring a little bit more, would have been beneficial. There's a great scene at this attraction at the climax on this cruise ship that is tense and effective at what they're doing there, benefiting from practical effects that look good. The soundtrack and design also complement the overall experience, so, give credit for that. So it actually kind of sounds like Spencer Tracy might have had some issues here. Sounds like he was really kind of going on drunken binges and everything like that. Sounds like he destroyed some of the sets when he accidentally got locked in to one after he passed out being drunk. He also said this is one of the worst pictures he ever made anywhere, anytime. He tried to get his name removed from the opening credits, and I guess it does not appear in any of the publicity of the film. So then, remarkably, outtakes still survive for this. There's raw footage of a clapperboard and a setup for a dancer number with 16-year-old Rita Hayworth, which was included in the documentary of Rita from 2003. And it also seems that there was a ton of carpenters and electricians, technicians, everything like that to get the hell scene to come to life. The Carter names his ocean liner SS Paradise. Paradise and Inferno are 2 parts of the Divine Comedy. Then, I know Spencer Tracy gave some credit here to Rita Hayworth. Now, it does seem that she was also in Under the Pampas Moon and Charlie Chan in Egypt. Those were released first. This one might have been made before that, so this technically isn't her film debut. Other than that, there was a planned remake with Richard Madison wrote a script and Gordon Hessler was the director in 1968. It sounds like that fell through. Same thing in 1975 when Franco Zeffirelli announced a remake with Peter O'Toole and George C. Scott. This was the final film of actress Mary Ashcroft, and then the final film of Margaret McChrystal, and then also Gail Goodson's film debut. So then, in conclusion, this offers a compelling character study of Jim, a man whose insatiable ambition leads to his rise and eventual downfall. While not strictly a horror film, its dramatic narrative and allegorical depiction of hell provides intriguing elements. Tracy delivers a powerful performance, anchoring the film alongside strong supporting turns from Trevor and Whitehall. Despite technological limitations, the film cinematography and depiction of hell stand out. Ultimately, this serves as a poignant moral fable, offering a critique of unchecked greed and ambition. So my rating here for Dante's Inferno from 1935 is going to be a 7.5 out of 10. I'm not going to do a spoiler section. I don't think there's anything necessarily additional I need to do there. So let me go ahead and get you over to one last break before I close out the show. And I have a great offer here that I wanted to go ahead and extend to all you listeners out there for oldglory.com. This is a place where you can get over 300,000 items for music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture fans, featuring officially licensed merch from iconic bands and top sports teams. Discover your perfect fan gear and save with my exclusive discount. And that is going to be Cinephile 1. But here you get a 15% discount off of any product, and this is exclusive for something that I'm doing and for what has been offered to me. And I mean, this has things like artists here, Bob Marley, the Beatles, Grateful Dead, the Rolling Stones, Metallica, and more. We also have sports fans have stuff here for your favorite teams with official gear from the NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB, and NCAA, showcasing your team pride in style. And they even have some stuff here that celebrate, entertainment, TV shows, movies, lifestyle brands, and it means some quirky gifts to fan favorite apparel. There's something for everybody. With free standard shipping and same day order processing, Old Glory delivers fast and reliable service with every purchase. Whether shopping for yourself or looking for a perfect gift, Old Glory is your one-stop shop for iconic, high-quality merch that reflects your love for music and sports, as well as like pop culture. And I mean, kind of just running ththrough some of this stuff. This is a family-owned superstore since 1969. They're known for their quality and customer service. You can get exclusive selection of graphic tees, hoodies, hats, and accessories. Represent your favorite sports team with official fan gear. Discover quirky gifts, like I was saying, and fun pop culture apparel. Perfect place to shop for, this type of stuff. And there's a vast selection of entertainment-themed products, including movies and TV shows if you're not necessarily into some of the other things. And enjoy reliable and fast service with Old Glory's commitment to customer satisfaction, the ultimate source for high-quality, licensed fan merchandise for all ages. Like I said, my promo code is going to be Cinephile1, all one word. So if you're kind of interested, go ahead and check out their website here in my show notes, as I'll have I actually have more details down there for you as well.
You know what that sound means? It's another episode of Game for a Movie, where we ask, are you game for a movie?
Tell me, Andre. There's no special features on that goddamn DVD, alright?
Oh, wow. For Hansel and Gretel?
Hansel and Gretel.
You have the DVD
you watch it? Yeah.
Hansel and Gretel.
She basically has sex with it, somehow.
Foreplay.
Yeah,
yes.
She's chair foreplay.
They knocked it out of the park, which is why it's my number 3. So.
Oh!
Yes. I mean, I wouldn't be in it because this movie doesn't have women. But, it's fine. Right. It has one.
You would have 3 lines of dialogue.
So how much? 3. Oh. Okay. So I'm actually gonna get, I earn my 4 sentences of dialogue rather than, here, have a paycheck. You just stood there on the screen. You're a sexy lamp.
Anyway, we're not.
Dark Phoenix 2.
No.
Because they really hate each other, so we get to enjoy some wonderful comedic scenes of them hating each other so much that they get into physical altercations that include her biting ex-detective Phillips's dick.
Okay.
But we don't. Okay. In a hot tub.
I know all of those words were English, but the way you constructed them, I'm lost.
I'm not finding the range of them very well. For those who haven't rated us or liked or given us a review, don't say that we haven't given you anything of value after listening to this podcast. You now know the difference between an R-rated dick and an NC-17 X-rated dick. You're welcome.
Thank you guys for listening to Game for a Movie, where we ask, are you game for a movie? We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
And welcome back. So if you'd like to send me any sort of feedback, anything you want read on the show, or any screener requests, anything like that, you can send those to journeywithacinephile@gmail.com. If you'd like to read any of my written reviews or see any of the old past podcast episodes, all of that is being stored over at Journey with a Cinephile. That is my blog, and that's going to be horrorreview.webnode.com. If you'd like to follow me and become friends on Facebook, it's going to be David Garrett Jr. is my name over on there. There's going to be a link in the show notes. And then if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, it's going to be Buckeye from Mish. And then if you'd like to follow my Letterboxd page, where I have all of my reviews, whether that is going to be horror or non-horror, that's going to be David OSU is my name on that. Instagram and Threads, I'm David OSU87. Over on my personal Instagram page, you might see some of my family stuff every now and then whenever I remember to post something. My wife is much better at it than I am. But then if you'd like to follow the Journey with a Cinephile Instagram, that's going to be Journey with a Cinephile, all one word. And then also direct you, if you'd like, to the Discord channel. That's going to be the Nightclub Discord, but I have a page over there. And there's also some other great pages of other shows and them kind of messing around and everything like that. Do highly recommend if you want to go ahead and check that out. And then the last thing I'll actually say here, if you would like to listen to the show a day early, this is always going to be streaming over there on the PodNation TV app. So I will have, once again, a link in the show notes for that if that is something that you're interested in. So, yeah, there's some great stuff here. There's some great shows on some of these other networks and stuff. I highly recommend checking them out. And then for the next episode is going to be another Voyage of the Fives. I'm going to be pairing up here the Jungle Captive. I've been meaning to watch this one for a while. I picked it up on Blu-ray in a box set. And then I've already seen The Long Walk. I went to the Gateway Film Center to check that out. So those will be the two featured reviews. And then it's also going to kick off Hooptober. So I'm actually going to be kicking off with The Mangler is going to be one of the first films that I watch. That's going to be my Voyage of the Fives rewatch from 1995. I've not seen this one since college. And then I will have my rewatch as of right now is either going to be 28 years later, or if Jamie and I can actually finally sit down to watch Death of a Unicorn or Sinners. One of those three will be there. And then I have a couple screeners that I'm going to be watching. And I'll also start watching some of those mini reviews for Hooptober. So I don't think there's anything else I need to say here for this outro, except that wraps up this episode of Journey with a Cinephile, a horror movie podcast. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of horror cinema. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow along for more deep dives into the macabre. Until next time, keep watching horror, and remember, fear is just a frame away.
It had been a wonderful evening, and what I needed now to give it the perfect ending